Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Focus. We're very fortunate to have on the line with us Skipp Townsend. He's the Executive Director of Second Call. Good morning, Mr. Townsend.
And how are you, Dr. Brooks? Thank you for having me on your show.
Very good. We have Lake County, Illinois, approximately 800,000 people, but I don't know how many up at 5 o'clock this Sunday morning, listening to the program. But I understand we have a pretty good audience there. I want to just state from the beginning that the producer of this show is Carla Moxon. That's Moxon. She's with the Citizens Commission on Human Rights in Los Angeles, California, and she referred me to you. Said you had an interest in the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and you're doing a great work in Los Angeles with Ceasefire, and you're going to explain the Second Call organization that you affiliated with. But first of all, tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal and professional background.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Brooks. Well, for me, I did 27 years of being involved in the negative influence of the community.
Okay.
For 27 years, I was labeled as a gang member and part of the foolishness that went on in Los Angeles. And it was 1998. I'm in custody. I'm facing 2 life sentences followed by 6 years. My father died, and it all kind of hit me while I'm in custody. My mother asked me I wouldn't be able to come to the funeral because I was so violent. So it kind of hit me there. Where did I get it from? How did I become this way? So I did sort of like a self-assessment, and I realized as a child I was taught if somebody hits me, I need to hit them back. Mm-hmm. If they're bigger than me, I need to pick up something and knock the dog out of them. Mm-hmm. I'm taught all these violent things on how to deal with life, and I never unlearned it. I never untaught myself these things. It just traveled with me as I got older. So I started doing a self-assessment, and when I heard one of the guys from the American program, I'm not sure if you guys heard of that in Chicago, but it's Jim Brown's program. He started out here, but he's taking it countrywide. Mm-hmm. And they talked about developing a desire for success. And that was my turnaround because I had never developed a desire to be successful. Mm-hmm. Successful for me was just to be not dead or in jail. If I could wake up every morning, I'm not dead or in jail, you can call anybody and say, how's Skipp doing? They'll say, he's doing good. Based on what? Based on the fact he's not dead or in jail. So when I realized that, I started helping the young people develop a desire for success. So this was 2006. I joined forces with a guy named Bo Taylor, who was my mentor. Joined forces with Unity One, American, and myself and the co-founder of Second Call. We started Second Call, which is a second chance at love and life. And we're more focused on reentry and violence prevention, but it's by working with the violent offenders. In L.A., there's so much money thrown into prevention. We want to save the kids, and you hear everyone say save the kids, but what do we do with that 27-year-old, that 32-year-old that comes home from prison or that just hasn't been working? Do we just throw them away? So a Second Call, what we want to do is offer the second chances. Sometimes they're 10th and 15th chances, but we have to offer them to the individuals and say that we just can't have a group of people that society disregards and fills the prisons with. So pretty much with Second Call, that's who we work with because that's who we were, if that makes sense.
Right. Another person out there, too, Donna Graham, I guess she's the executive director of It's Time for a Real Change, too.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to see her in about an hour. It's definitely time for a real change, and she's definitely doing her part out here in Los Angeles. I don't know if she told you, but she was part of the original foolishness, too. I mean, so for her to stand up and turn around and tell the people that are looking up to her, and she has a great following out here in L.A. as well. She has a lot of young ladies that come to her for advice, and she could very easily give them the wrong advice. So we thank God that she's on the right path and she's leading them in the right direction.
She's girls in gangs, I guess, what she's concentrating on too, though, And we find that more girls on gangs than ever before. They're building more prisons now for women now than ever before.
Yes, indeed they are. And, what saddens me is I go to the women's prison every Tuesday. It saddens me because most of them in there that are doing life sentences, that have life without parole, are in there for killing their spouse, their loved one, whoever. And so it means there's an issue in domestic violence. There's an issue that kind of interacts gang violence with domestic violence.
Uh-huh.
We have to address it. We have to address that when a young lady from Watts meets a guy from Compton, and they're from two different gangs, when they have an argument or a fight and become violent with each other, sometimes it leads not just to domestic violence, but to where now their communities are involved and their families are involved, and it gets even deeper. So we can't just throw people away because of mistakes. We have to find a way to realize that sometimes these women are victims of domestic violence, and they're only lashing back. They're lashing out because they don't want to be victims. So that's how they sign up to be suspects, and we're giving them life sentences. For what? For defending themselves? When that's why second call is so important, because we want to interact before society decides that they want to throw this individual away. You know?
Is one of the reasons a lack of defense for them when they go to trial?
Well, I think the laws are changing pretty much now. There's a lot of change in the laws where they're able to look at it. I know here in L.A. they've created a DV task force, which deals with domestic violence, where law enforcement and the city attorney of Los Angeles actually heads it up, where they're starting to understand and do more trainings and understand the dynamics so we can get more information into the street. I think that's the key, that a lot of information doesn't get to the streets. A lot of women will choose to stay in the relationship because they don't know that they have options, choices. They think it's too hard. They think, man, I can't leave this man because where I'm going to eat, how I'm going to take care of my kids. And,
okay.
You know, so they stay in an abusive relationship until they can't take it. And at that point when they snap, now they kill someone, and now they're in trouble.
It's all over then, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're talking with Skipp Townsend from Los Angeles, California. He's the executive director of an organization called Second Call. Skipp, tell us about this gun control deal. It seems like there's more guns available to people now. If the guns are available easily, a concealed weapon, they're going to use those. We used to have a fisticuff, but there's no fighting with fists anymore. They get angry and they're just going to use a gun, and they shoot somebody, and then it's all over for them.
Right. I'm not one to really push conspiracy theory, but it's by design. If you ask me, none of our people, none of the young 18, 19-year-old African-American or young Latinos have access to just go to different countries and order guns and do these things. It's by design that these guns end up in our communities. Mm-hmm. And, here in Los Angeles, we have in South L.A., in Inglewood, and Compton, and Watts, it's prime real estate. Venice, California is prime real estate right by the beach, 20 minutes from the airport. So I think it's gentrification. I think it's by design that these guns, even in the 1980s, it's been proven by one of our congresswomen, Maxine Waters, have proven that where there were guns left on the railroad tracks in Watts. Why would a railroad company leave a shipment of guns on the railroad track in Watts for 3 days unattended? And, of course, the people broke in, and then everybody in Watts had guns. Wow. So a couple months later, there's another shipment left on Slauson Boulevard, which is in the heart of South Central. So if you put in all the guns and all the drugs, and how did Freeway Ricky Ross get all the drugs he got to disperse? And it came from the Contra scandal. So if you're talking about the government putting stuff here on purpose, and then we spread it throughout the rest of the country, it's by design, I believe. I don't know how it's being done or why it's being done, but I think the gentrification part of it is so important. When you have prime real estate, when you have here in L.A., if you're living in a lower economic community, mm-hmm. and the houses have shot up from $90,000 or $100,000 homes, they're now worth $800,000 or $500,000. It's telling us that they don't expect us to come back. Because how can I afford, if I lose my grandmother's house, then how can I afford to move back into my community? I can't, not at this point.
Emphasize again on leaving guns on the railroad tracks now. They're not sold in the community. They're just left there for the members to get the guns?
Well, what I was speaking on actually happened. It was a true fact that happened in the 1980s where there were guns left in two different communities in Los Angeles.
Okay.
However, now there are different manufacturers who have their distribution sites in South Los Angeles. One of them is in the heart of what we call the Leimert Park area, which is the only black hub that we still have in L.A. And, if you watch the news, you'll see that even at the end of the Trayvon Martin case, that everyone in Los Angeles meets at Leimert Park. Michael Jackson died. Everyone meets at Leimert Park for everything that happens, that the community comes together. We come together at Leimert Park, but right behind the park itself is a major distribution of high artillery weapons, and they also have the ammunition there. And law enforcement themselves are the only ones who can purchase guns there, but they make it so readily available in our community. It's really a slap in the face. It really is.
Wow. I think of Rodney King. He passed away recently, but he survived a severe beating, I guess, by the police department in L.A., and I wonder, has they increased the training and so forth for L.A. policemen?
You know what? Let me take my hat off to William Bratten, who was the chief prior to Chief Charlie Beck here in L.A. now, because he made a lot of changes. He did not make LAPD better for the community, but he makes a better relationship for the community, but what he did do is make LAPD a better organization. I have to take my hat off for that. I don't think he was as community-driven as Charlie Beck is, but he went through there and made a number of changes, and one of them is that the officers are no longer getting out their car with the batons in their hand. The batons are for tactical reasons only, so we don't have that issue anymore. Also, they used to beat people with flashlights. They had these long, heavy-duty flashlights that they would beat people with, and because of William Bratten, they no longer use those flashlights. They've actually found a company that are making smaller flashlights that have the same capability of I don't know what it is, lightness or, the same, serve the same purpose, but it won't be able to be used for a weapon. So there's a lot of great changes made, and now with Chief Charlie Beck, there's a lot of community engagement. When Christopher Dorner was doing his thing, and, the community wants to know, okay, we say he's a monster, we say he's a killer, but when we talked about Christopher Dorner, we want to know he's not a liar. So we needed the chief to come in and talk about some of the racial profiling and some of the stuff that goes on, and they did. And, they did. So I appreciate some of the changes that they've made since Rodney King, since Devin Brown, since Christopher Dorner. There's a lot of changes going on.
Right. Well, the O.J. Simpson case, for example, people tend to believe that he was he didn't get that he was acquitted because of the L.A. Police Department tactics, more so than the crime itself. And I think his attorney, that passed away recently.
Right.
But he convinced him that the L.A. Police Department was really, and everybody was not rejoicing because he won his case, but it was brought out that the police department was not, doing what they supposed to do, or did not have the training and so forth, racial profiling and all this type of thing,
Right. And I think it's a different department now than it was in '94.
Okay.
However, I still believe that there are officers. There are officers who have that good old boy mentality, if I can use that term, the good old boy mentality that look at a situation and figure out not what's morally right or what do we do here to protect the community, but what do we do here to make sure we convict this SOB. I think there are people who are doing that in LAPD, and we can't get around it. You have 10,000 officers. They have 10,000 officers in a city, and the county itself is much larger, probably 10 times larger than the city, and they too have 10,000 deputies, sheriff deputies. So you have the 10,000 people. It's going to be kind of hard for any organization to really keep a tight notch on these individuals and not have different cliques that are willing to do whatever they want to do,
I've been trying to find the answer, and I'm calling all over the country trying to find the answer because the origin of mankind started out in Africa, you know, and the minority blacks or slaves were brought over to this country, and they free labor and did everything in the country. But so what has the slaves done to get this type of treatment? I haven't been able to figure it out. I've been trying. This is 2013, and I'm still trying to figure out. I know it's. You mentioned about the not only political but the financial thing. Moving blacks out of areas and condominiums coming in and this type of thing. But the actual treatment of blacks, I just can't stand it. Now we have a case just recently happened, Trayvon Martin in Sanford, California. Well,
no, Florida, in Sanford, Florida.
Sanford, Florida. Oh boy. Okay, I won't put that in California with you. You got enough problems there,
Right.
Now, what happened? What do you think? The case where he was acquitted. It just didn't make any kind of sense, when he was told to stay away, stay in his car and so forth. He got out and the incident happened. Of course, I guess the federal government is going to look at it as what do we call it, a hatred crime and this type of thing, and redo it there.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a violation of civil rights, not only for Trayvon Martin and his family, but for all of us as black people. It was a joke or a slight that said, when you go to sleep at night, remember to rewind your clocks back 200 years.
Oh,
like daylight savings time, because what that just did is took us back more than 200 years.
Okay.
Because what society or what the six-panel jury said was that it was absolutely okay for him to kill the young black man who was unarmed, because of fear for his life. So that gives the individual the opportunity to think, okay, so if you're black and I have a fear for my life, I have the right to kill you. So, we have a situation where Michael Vick has done all these things that they say are so horrible with dogs because their entertainment was to fight dogs, and he was given 28 months in prison. But this young man, Zimmerman, was able to go home after he killed the black man. So I think when you talk about the treatment of slaves and the ancestors of slaves, people all around the country in different places, they came out and they protest. Even here in L.A., we marched on the freeway. We marched down Crenshaw. We started at Mert Park. But in the same token, and even in the same day, there were 3 or 4 other people killed here in L.A., and we didn't march, and we didn't say anything. Okay. So I think, what is the message that we're sending to America? When we send the message to America, even in Chicago, look at the black and black crime that's going on in Chicago, leading the nation in homicides at the beginning of the year, and I think it slowed up a bit, but then it sparked up again a couple of weekends ago. Right. So here's the thing. We kill each other. We're sending a message to America that it is okay. So it's okay for us to be killed, because what we're saying when we kill each other is that we don't want Zimmerman or any other race to kill us. That's our job. We're going to kill each other.
Okay.
More blacks kill blacks than anyone else. That Zimmerman case was horrible. That young Trayvon Martin should not have been killed. But the young girl in Chicago who was at the inauguration of Obama, she shouldn't have been killed either. Right. We have young people here in L.A. that shouldn't have been killed either. There was a 2-year-old baby got shot in the hand. 2-year-old baby got shot in the hand a couple of weeks ago in L.A.
Okay.
That's it. And that's blacks killing blacks and shooting at blacks. And so we have to stop it within ourselves. We have to stop the violent nature that we have amongst each other. And once we do that and come together and do something financially to shut down the corporations that support Zimmerman, the corporations that support the laws for gun, the different laws to lock people up and supporting the prison and taking our children, putting them in prison. Once we start shutting these corporations down and showing that we have a financial legacy that we can leave our children, that's when our children will start building that self-esteem and be able to say, I'm greater than what the rap music says I am. I'm greater than what the guy down the street selling drugs says I am. but we have to build that self-esteem within us completely as a culture.
In addition, the defense attorneys were on The View this morning, and they stated that they were not paid a cent to defend him. And,
wow.
and they're one of the top defenders in the country. And the hundreds of thousands of dollars that came in for defense for Mr. Zimmerman, you know, I just can't understand this. I just can't understand it. It's beyond. I guess for every positive there's a negative. I guess because when the world was formed, we had the God and we had the devil. So we're gonna have the darkness and light. You're gonna always have opposites. Well, tell us about, before we leave here, Stanley Tookie Williams in L.A.
Yes. Well, let me tell you, that's how Southern California Ceasefire Committee started. Stanley Tookie Williams, bodybuilder out here in L.A. He was one of the original guys on the West Side. After Raymond Washington started the Crips, they went to Stanley Tookie Williams, and they just thought he would be the biggest adversary, and they wanted to team up with him, and they were prepared to fight him, but he was like, no, I'm not going to fight it. So he started the West Side Crips and had a legacy that was this horrible monster. But what he actually did when he was in prison is he was nominated a couple of times for the Nobel Peace Prize because of his books and the things that he was doing, writing to children, and he created a peace protocol. Okay. And the peace protocol now is what the Southern California Ceasefire Committee stands on. So we're not associated with Chicago Ceasefire, even though we support them. We're not associated with Boston Ceasefire, the ones in Sacramento and different places, but our ceasefire started because of the execution of Stanley Tookie Williams, December 13, 2005. Okay. We want to stop that. We figure this man is going to be greater and useful to us alive than he could be dead. So we started the Southern California Ceasefire Committee on the peace protocol that was created by Stanley Tookie Williams. And from 2005 till now, to present day, Southern California Ceasefire is still in existence, and we meet every Wednesday in Los Angeles. That's I'm executive board member, so is Donna Graham. It's a great organization, and we're pleasured to have had the opportunity to fight for the life of Stanley Tookie Williams. We're grateful that he gave his last years to trying to create peace in the communities and also the mindset of young people who might be looking up wanting to glorify gangbanging. He really did his part at trying to reverse the role that he played when he was younger.
You know, you mentioned Donna Graham again, but I'd like to have her, since she's on the board with you, on the line to talk in the future, to talk about it's time for real change, and that's girls in gangs, Right. And I think that would be an outstanding program, too, to help the county, get the information on the county about girls in gangs. I didn't realize there were so many girls turning to gangs, and I don't know. It's I guess it's because they're male components. You think of it?
Well, it's a number of reasons. A lot of girls, they don't, just like men, they don't get the opportunity to address the things that are wrong in their life. Now they're told to stand up, be strong, and this and that, and when they're told to stand up and be strong, what about the emotions? What about talking, like having food poisoning? Okay. The only way to heal is for it to come out. So with some of these young girls, they don't get the opportunity to talk about being molested or talk about being raped or not having a father or, having learning disabilities. Some of these girls can't read and write properly, so they have to act out in a different manner and, not being able to talk about their sexuality. So a lot of them turn to girls that like girls. So, it's a number of things, and we're not really helping. Society judges our children, whether they're boys or girls, they judge them. So, but we got to offer the resources to the young children, and one of the resources is not just always food and clothes. Sometimes it's listening. Can we listen to our children? And if we can listen to our children and hear their concerns, their challenges and obstacles, and not put ourselves in it, not say, well, when I was your age, I had to do this, but actually listen to them and understand it's a new day and age, and understand they have different views and opinions than we did. Mm-hmm. And wherever we are now mentally, just know that these children are there, and we have to take them to the process, not just expect them to be where we are. We have to show them that there's a process to get to be 48, 49 years old. So I think that's the key, and I think that's what Girls and Gangs does, and Second Call, and a lot of these other organizations. We listen. And I think that's why we're so successful. We definitely don't get money. So the organizations that get money, I think they got great programming. But I think the key component that doesn't cost a thing is to listen and try to help the individual understand who they are. Not understand who I am, but let me help them see not what they're running to, but I want to see what they're running from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see that they're running towards guns and drugs and sex and gang violence. I want to see what they're running from, and try to address it there.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, the eloquent person that you're hearing is Mr. Skipp Townsend. He's executive director of Second Call in Los Angeles, California, and he's also serving on the Southern California Ceasefire Committee. And Mr. Townsend, I have to salute you and admire you for trying to eliminate all violence in California, because we have it all over, but especially in California. The games, you got domestic violence, you got racial, workplace violence, you got random acts of violence, and you even got schoolyard bullies, and that's a serious problem too, then, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I appreciate you for having me on your show. Appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Appreciate the love that Chicago always gives L.A. I truly appreciate that. Also, Columbus, Ohio, Memphis, Tennessee, Sacramento, all the different places that are working together at reducing violence. There's only one way for us to reduce it, and that's working together and understand that we have to collaborate. We have to share ideas, share experiences in order to make it better.
I mentioned at the top of the program about Carla Moxon. She's the Citizens Committee on Human Rights there in Los Angeles, California. And I'm not sure whether you know her or not, but she knows the work that you're doing. Are you familiar with the harm that psychiatric drugs do to our young people? Yes, indeed.
When you said it, I know exactly who you're talking about. Love the work that they're doing. I got a video called Define Better.
Okay.
And Define Better to me really just explained everything. I mean, it just talks about the drugs that is supposed to make a child or individual better, but it actually turns them into lifeless. It depletes their soul. So I'm definitely into that movement, and I don't promote or use any over-the-counter or any other prescription drugs.
Because what happens, they get dependent upon it, right?
Exactly.
And then they're this hooked in, this type of thing. And there's all type of alternative programs, that are valuable in helping people stay off psychiatric drugs. And I know Carla promulgates information, and which I promulgate on to others here in Lake County about the programs that they're trying to do. A great organization, international organization, trying to keep young people. I say young and old too, but especially young people, because they have a lifetime ahead of them off of psychiatric drugs. So there are many problems, that we're dealing with: the gang, the psychiatric problem, that we just. And people like you and your members of your board working without pay. You're concerned about people because you have a date of birth, a dash, and a date of death. It's what you do between that dash is what counts as far as God is concerned.
Yes, sir.
So, and another little tidbit I would like to say: the things that you do for yourself are gone when you're gone. But the things that you do for others remain as your legacy.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we thank you for listening to another awareness session on community focus. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host. Okay, we're off the air now, Mr. Townsend. I want to thank you very much again. That was outstanding.
All right, thank you.
I had a young man from my, I had a TV studio in my home, and I had a young man from, I say young man, he's in his 50s, I guess, the planner from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he was on my show last night, and we're talking about hidden colors. Have you seen that yet?
No, but I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, you want to see that. We talked about that, and I'm going to show. It's about 2.5 hours long. My show was an hour, but I'm doing it in two parts, to make sure that everybody get a chance to get a chance to see it. Okay, P.O. Box 191476, Los Angeles, California 90019, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, and we'll get that into the mail today. And I can't thank you enough. And tell Donna Graham about me there, and I guess I can give her a call. And I hope that she'll be willing to do a show also.
Right. Okay.
Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.